Escape Vector plotted. Credited font. Launch.
Welcome, dear listener, to the Escape Vector podcast. One quick update. We released our first original Mothership adventure. It's called What Stirs Below, and the link to find it is in the podcast notes. Also, check out our trailer for it, cut from real gameplay. Thank you to our early and new supporters. This is a review of Moonbase Blues. Let me know if this is a good length. This episode is player safe. I will give warnings before spoilers. I have a bias to get out of the way. I have a special place in my heart for Moonbase Blues because it was my second ever session of Mothership. A year and a half ago, I ran this and Dead Planet in the same weekend. My players and I still repeat lines and remember situations from that session. Moonbase Blues is a playable one-shot scenario and adventure for the Mothership RPG. A group could probably complete this in 2 to 6 hours. The scenario is a 2-sided bifold pamphlet using a regular 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. Like piece by piece, this is printer friendly from the start. Since the physical copy was out of stock at the time, I bought the PDF and the custom print job at my local office supply store, sponsorship pending, was less than a Canadian dollar on cardstock in color. Okay, let's jump into a quick synopsis without spoilers. At the discretion of the GM and/or players, the player characters find themselves on a small moon's research outpost. Whether any of the PCs are given the directives in the intro text is up to the GM. Not surprisingly, things are either strange from the beginning, as written, or get stranger. Thankfully, the PCs aren't alone. They will be welcomed by the Moonbase's existing crew. Let's start with story and cast. The premise is cool, what preceded the PC's arrival is interesting, and what is actually going on is great. There is some ambiguity regarding how the PCs arrive, but I like what's insinuated. The story is easy to follow, but as others may have pointed out, the endgame is a little unclear, and I would like to add that there is a possible loose thread in the intro text regarding what draws the PCs to the Moonbase. Although the cast of NPCs varies from named to unnamed NPCs, there are enough notes to help a GM make any of them memorable. I don't consider what I'm going to say next is a drawback, but tonally, a table could play this completely seriously. But I found some of the imagery silly, and I decided to ham up some of the NPC encounters to lean into that. This resulted in a balance of creepy with occasional campy moments, and it worked for our table. And now, presentation. This product has a clean, simple design that is consistent throughout. The cover art is very subtle at arm's length, but would stand out from other products on a stand due to the contrast between the fictional Moonbase's blue logo and the generous amount of white negative space. The title font being NASA-esque is a nice detail. The interior art is minimal, only an isometric map and a diagram, really. The map is clear. The icons are spot on. A reader could probably guess what the icons represent without even reading the text. A cool thing is that the timeline is integrated into the map. Like many early Mothership products, the layout, design, and font are basic but effective. For layout, I find the text is a bit dense in some parts, but the information is organized well. Although I think some elements that are area-specific should have just been added to the corresponding area descriptions. The writing is good. It's concise, yet full of creative details that make this adventure location stand out. Surprisingly, the named and unnamed NPCs almost have the same level of detail in their characterization. Though, as I mentioned earlier, the NPC notes can help them stand out. The introductory text and other supplementary materials are really fun. There's a good blend of mundane and eerie. Okay, on to usability or utility and the GM experience. As always, this is about the tools given to the GM. The playable area is actually quite large. This includes the main Moonbase complex and surrounding installations or points of interest. There are many environmental details to make exploration and encounters interesting. Although the playable area is large, neither maps indicate distance between locations, so a GM should determine the distances and stick to them. Otherwise, the map is easy to use and draw if needed. NPCs. Starting with the named NPCs, there are just enough notes to guide some roleplay, but a lot is left up to the GM to add. The named NPCs do not have stat blocks, and the unnamed NPCs have easy to use stat blocks, and I think they really shine due to notes on tactics and a creative table of quirky characteristics. Half the fun of running this adventure is rolling up fun unnamed NPCs and watching your players' first reactions to the quirks. The timeline is illustrated and described well. The loot table has a fun mix of creative and mundane items, but even the mundane items stand out as odd, in a good way. Handouts. Although I drew the map on a dry erase battle map, the enlarged standalone map handout was really useful for in-person play. I'm sure it will be appreciated for virtual games. And here comes a quick spoiler, so skip ahead. 15 seconds. 3, 2, 1. The audio track was a cool idea, but the most significant detail is virtually imperceptible for a player. So I think it is unlikely a player will pick up on what they need to know without any prompting from the GM. So GMs, play the audio and ask the PCs to make a check. The madness table is a lot of fun. The mechanics are simple, so using it is a breeze when the session calls for it. And here comes another quick spoiler, so skip ahead. 10 seconds. 3, 2, 1. About the meteor psychosis, I would change the body save to every half hour if you are playing a one-shot. Okay, prep required. Like I said earlier, the endgame is unclear. Although there's enough to support a light sandbox survival horror game, a GM should think on what paths for survival or escape look like and give hints to your players. I invented and introduced one in the second session, and the players made that their plan A. Also, prepare some small handouts for the madness table to give to players. I use cue cards to secretly communicate special conditions to specific players. The unnamed NPCs have stat blocks, but there are a few named ones that do not, so have some ready for them. Otherwise, I don't think there is much preparation needed. I think I would recommend at least one read-through to figure out the scenario start, to understand the timeline, to locate the available GM tools, and to jot down some notes on what success looks like. And player sentiment. My players had a great time with this. For this group, it was their first session of Mothership. One PC embraced being a space janitor and headed straight for the clogged toilets. Thus, the resourceful and task-oriented Bruno Crab, a returning PC, was born. One player turned out not to like TTRPGs, but I think she had as much fun as she could. Although she struggled with decision paralysis and roleplay stage fright, she was certainly engaged, and was around for some of the tensest moments. And now, my overall and final remarks. To me, the highlights are the easy-to-understand story, the memorable NPC generator and roleplay moments, the loot table, and the thematic madness table. Overall, this is another easy recommendation. It might remind gaming groups of the Dead Space multimedia franchise in some ways. It's another great introduction to Mothership that offers something for almost everyone, from the players in your group that want combat with survival horror elements, to the ones who like to act out their PCs, and to the ones who like to explore. That's it for this time. Moonbase Blues is written by Ian Newsom, aka Anodyne Printware, with the concept by Die Sugars and art and layout by W, that is Whiskey, Denning. You can find the print and PDF bundle on the Mothership RPG webstore or PDF only on DriveThruRPG. If you choose DriveThruRPG, pick it up along with other Mothership titles using our affiliate link in the show notes. It really helps the show. In any case, let Ian know we sent you. Also, check out our own original Mothership adventure, What Stirs Below, available on DriveThruRPG now. Use the affiliate link in the show notes, and on the MothershipRPG.com web store a few months from now. Our music is from Epidemic Sound. Please connect with us online. You can reach us on Instagram or by email. We'd love to hear from you. One way you could support this show is by telling your friends and your gaming community about us. And another way is locking on to our signal by subscribing to our feed. And while you're at it, set up a notification alert so you don't miss an episode. As always, thanks to our listeners. Over and out.